Hello, and welcome to the Making the Most of Our Mess podcast. I think we are on episode number 5, and we are wanting to talk a little bit today about stimulation, overstimulation, how to process stimulation, what stimulation kind of looks like, particularly as it relates to those on the autism spectrum, and also any particular other things. So, autism in general is a sensory processing issue. So, a lot of times, those that are on the spectrum, they don't sense things in the same way that those that are neurotypical might.
Mhm.
It might be a sound, it might be a smell, it might be a texture of a thing.
Mm.
Janine, you got some examples for us?
I know for our son Tyler in particular, it's kind of ebbed and flowed over the years, but I know several years ago when he was in younger school, when he wasn't in high school, when there were fire alarms that went off, that was disturbing to him because if you've ever been around for a fire drill in a school setting, it is like that, like terrible sound. And it's supposed to be obnoxious on purpose because if there was an emergency, obviously that would be the indication that you needed to leave the building or wherever you are. I also know in recent weeks and days, our dog breathing heavily has been a sound that adversely affects Tyler. And again, it's obviously the dog does breathe all the time, but when she is panting, that really
Breathing,
gets him.
chewing sounds, even with
Chewing.
eating dinner.
Doug,
You know,
when Doug eats, apparently Doug has an eating sound. And a few months ago, we're eating, and Tyler's like, I can't sit at the table. And we're like, why? He goes, because of Dad's eating sounds. And we didn't know what he was talking about. And ever since then, Doug, you definitely have some eating sounds.
I've been told to stop eating, to stop drinking, to stop breathing, all because my sounds of
And
that
because
are
you
too
have
much.
sinus issues, I mean, all the things. So that's just an example of sound. I know for sight, particularly when the boys were small, I was the parent that said, when I have kids, my child will never act a certain way in Walmart. And let me just tell you right now, when you say, I'm never going to do something or my child will never, oh, they will every single time and take it up a notch. But particularly Walmart with the fluorescent lights. And this is something I don't even think about when I go into a Walmart or a Target. But man, if you notice the next time you go into one of those stores, those lights are bright. There's a lot of merchandise, there's candy, there's toys, there's, welcome to Walmart. There's people everywhere. There's squeaky wheels on carts. And again, the lighting in some of those stores can actually overstimulate someone.
Even things like texture on clothes. There's certain clothing
Ooh,
that is very comfortable, and no matter what it looks like he'll wear turtlenecks in the middle of July,
oh,
just
yes,
because he likes the texture of it. Uh,
yes.
a lot of times, tags and clothing, those have
Hmm.
to be cut out, or purchase clothing that doesn't have tags, just from the
Hmm.
standpoint of it's just irritating.
It's itchy, it's scratchy, it kind of bothers and hurts. And again, this again, we're talking about one of our family members with autism and ADHD, but there are other people who don't have any condition like that, and there are just some sensory things that some people
There's some people
prefer.
that are neurotypical and have
Yeah,
some of those things. They don't like the lights in Walmart. They don't like the sounds of this.
I can't stand a soft t-shirt. I would like a rough unisex t-shirt.
So all of those things, and we're just talking about the general course of life
Sure.
of just stuff that, from the sheets that you have on your bed to the towels that you use to take a bath with,
Hmm.
to the sounds at the
Scents.
table, the smells of cooking. Those are all just everyday little things that are
Yeah.
just that's normal in the course of a day. And when you step that up ever so slightly and
Mm.
you go to somewhere where there's more of those things, you go to a restaurant where there's a bunch of sounds, where there's a bunch of
Yes.
smells, where there's a bunch of different textures, the booth's going to be weird, the table's going to feel different, the silverware is not quite the same.
The table might be sticky from syrup from the last person that sat there.
Or maybe it's not level, and
Oh,
that's my issue. That's not really.
let me just tell you right now, if you ever go out to dinner or wherever with Doug Hodges and there's a table that is not
It's
level,
wobbly. I can't
brother
stand it.
man is going to get the sugar packets and is going to fix it until we can sit
I'm
there.
one step away from having a toolbox with the proper spacers in just to go ahead and fix the table. But I have been known to go pick another table just because I want to enjoy my meal and not sit
Thousand
there.
percent.
Anyhow,
And we won't even talk about the squeaky styrofoam
yeah, I
coolers
can't do that.
in the car.
I can't
No.
do that. I'll have warm sodas. Anyhow, those are all little things that while yes, it annoys us that are not on the spectrum. For those that are on the spectrum, it's not just a little annoyance that they can dismiss. It's
Mm,
something they can't control,
correct.
and it becomes too much. And so what I wanted to talk about when it becomes too much is where a lot of times the typical behaviors, the stereotypical behaviors associated with autism,
Yeah.
uh, these are some of the things that is most people will recognize autism in this mode, and we call it's stimming. Uh,
And by the way, it's not stemming, STEM, like a flower stem. It's stimming, STIMMING. And it's basically self stimulating behavior. Most of the time, it's associated with autism and ADHD, but it you might do some type of self stimulation that you never realized as well, and you don't have autism or ADHD.
it's basically a way to kind of calm yourself or soothe
Hmm.
yourself.
Hmm.
You know, we could get into some of the science of what part of the brain it is, but then you'll
Yeah.
start, boring out. But realistically, we all have a way in which we calm ourselves. We all have a way in which
Right.
we soothe ourselves.
Right.
And for those that are on the spectrum, that it doesn't necessarily always work internally inside your brain. It requires some sort of external action.
Right.
So you'll see that the typical behavior associated with autism is a lot of times called hand flapping or any type of flapping. Uh,
Sometimes it looks like this. If you've seen sometimes children, that is one example.
but and for some it's more repetitive motions. It's
Could
the
be a,
the Leo Mazzoni in the
oh, Leo.
in the Braves dugout. Just sitting there
This is
rocking the whole
Leo, the
time, the
pitching
whole
coach.
thing, doing the
Yep.
stuff. I'm not saying he has autism. I don't know if he does or
No.
doesn't, but that's just how many times you sit there and you tap your leg up and down because you're nervous and you're just trying to find a way to kind of get some of that nervous energy out.
Well, and even with like ADHD, I mean, fidgeting, tapping, leg bouncing. I mean, I believe I am undiagnosed, but man, Doug will sit there. Sometimes my leg is like bouncing a mile a minute, like while we're at church or we're someplace. And honestly, I don't even think about it. But the more I become aware of different things over time, I realize I'm chewing gum or I'm maybe drawing a picture or something while I'm in church because I'm trying to focus on what someone is saying. And so for me, having realized this in the last few years, like with my legs bouncing, I'm trying to stay awake sometimes and pay attention.
So for those on the spectrum, that's typically, and it's hard for people to understand because they don't really understand what made them overstimulated because
Right.
they're just at a normal thing, doing
Right.
normal stuff, and all of a sudden, this person's over there and exuding some sort of behavior that is typically not all that terribly socially appropriate. Yeah, but learning how to give space for that, learning how to give time for that, that's something that we've personally had to do.
So I want to give a little backstory here because when Tyler was 3 years old, was diagnosed with anything at that point. I mean, there were a couple little things like we mentioned in a previous episode of he always like was in the regular continuum of development, but just on the tail end. I remembered when he was 3 and we were living in North Florida, and he started like spinning, like I don't know what the radius would be or the circle he would
It's been how
spin.
much space he had, if
Right, but
usually the course of our living
it
room.
was usually in our living room. And I remember seeing him do this. Like, again, I noticed it maybe around the age of, maybe it might not have been 3, maybe it was a little bit older. But either way, I would ask him, and I was like, buddy, what are you doing? And he said he was dancing. And from the youngest, when we noticed it, he always called it his dancing. And even to this day, he calls it dancing. And it wasn't until years later that we realized this is stimming. And for us, when Tyler has had maybe a stressful day at school, sometimes just coming home from school, because you work from home, Doug, and so you see it, before I get home, but you will see him sometimes behind me in this, I don't know what this area is, this foyer area, or in our living room. He doesn't want anyone around, but he will basically spin in a circle. Typically, it is with music. He usually has listening to headphones, or he currently without a phone, so he's listening to the TV play the music that he likes, and he is literally spinning
And
for,
it's spinning in a circle, but it's also spinning while spinning in a circle.
yes.
So it's I don't know how he doesn't get dizzy.
You've tried
I've
to
tried
do
to do
it.
it with him, and
Doug,
I've almost
Doug's a
went to the
lightweight.
hospital. It's but this has been something that we've had to learn how to make time for and make space for.
Space, yeah. And I think the thing is,
And it's not just stressful situations.
that's true. It can be positive and good stuff.
We'll go to Disney, and especially when he was younger and went to Disney. I remember one time that I don't know, How old was he when we were there?
It was 2016, so 9 years ago. He was 9 years old. Well, hold on. I'm going to back up because I want to give the first part of this. Okay.
Okay.
So this is when we did not live in Central Florida, and we typically would come down to Disney for vacation or days off. Our kids loved it. It was a few-hour trip. And so we had gone the week of Thanksgiving in 2016. And we're down at Disney Springs. So if you've ever been down there, it was down the area where the big, what's the balloon called?
The balloon,
The balloon.
the hot air balloon.
It was the hot air balloon down by Starbucks. It's the Starbucks there now that has the palm tree going through like the hole in the roof. Super cool. So that's 9 years ago. Tucker was, I can't do my math right now. I'm a math coach. 15 minus 9, he's 6. So Tucker's 6, Tyler's 9. And Tucker and I had gone in Starbucks. It was at night and we had gone to get a drink. And Doug was with Tyler. And Doug, I think you were texting me and you were like, Janan, you have got to come outside right now. You will not believe what is going on. And I'm like, I don't even know what he's talking about. So I get Tucker. I'm like, come on, we got to go out here. We walk outside of Starbucks.
Let me give you a little bit of background before that.
Okay.
Back at that point, and they stopped for a little bit during COVID, but it's starting to pick back up. They'd have performers, all throughout Disney Springs, and there was kind of like a DJ / breakdancer guy doing his thing.
And there was a little booth, wasn't there? With
he had a little thing,
turntable.
and he was, so that he was the paid entertainment for that
Thanksgiving week with a ton of people there. Yeah.
And the guy was playing a song, and it had just been a day for Tyler, and he was just like, it hit his jam. Well, whatever it was there. And so Tyler's like, can I go dance? I'm like, sure, buddy, whatever,
meanwhile, Tucker and I are in Starbucks. Yeah.
And so Tyler goes out and he just kind of starts, spinning in a circle. And I will say that it's almost talentful how offbeat he can be. like it's, most people will eventually settle into a beat, and they'll eventually kind of find it. Like, not him. It's like it's a whole different time sequence that he's on, and it's just, and it changes throughout the course. It's just fascinating. And so he starts spinning in a circle. And so the breakdance guy's got a little bit of crowd interaction. Nobody's really doing much with him. So he kind of has to start spinning with Tyler and just can't keep up. Like, he's a professional breakdancer and, tired at Disney Springs and he's trying to keep up, and Tyler just spins faster and a different beat and this. And
as a 9-year-old. Yeah.
And the guy finally just is like, yeah, I'm just gonna let this kid do it. Well, about that time, I kind of stepped back and look, and this is about the point where I'm texting Janan to come out, and I'll let her pick up the story from here.
So Tucker and I have our drinks. I'm like, what is Doug wanting? We just got into Starbucks. I walk outside and I see my 9-year-old spinning with music going.
Lights. There was lights too.
I don't even know. I think I blocked a little bit of it. And there's this semicircle of people just watching him. But I think if I remember correctly, Doug, you were out there before and the guy was trying to get people interacting.
Yeah, nobody was stopping. Nobody was doing anything.
No, because the guy couldn't do what Tyler was doing. And I think he was trying to interact with Tyler socially. I think it could have been a dance off. Tyler was just spinning and going, and the guy just literally sat on the little wall there, and people are looking.
200 people sitting there just staring, waiting for here's a prodigy breakdance.
I don't know if there were that many people, but I think people were walking by. And by the way, at the end of this episode, we are going to post the actual video, because when I walked out there, I just started recording because I was floored as to what was happening.
And then somewhere in the middle of it, and much like Forrest Gump on his journey across America while running, he just said, okay, I'm done, and just stopped. The breakdance guy was like, what the heck? Why is he stopping? The DJ guy, all the crowd was like, what's he gonna do now? What's happening? And
he's like, peace out. We're
going
back to the hotel.
I'm ready to go back. I'm good. And I'm like, well, maybe you should go thank the guy for dancing with you. And he's like, thank you for letting me dance with you, sir. And then off we went. And the crowd was like, what? We just got fooled. This wasn't an act. This wasn't a thing.
But to him, he called it dancing, but it is a form of stimming because it's the repetitive the motion. And one thing, it's really interesting. He does not like people to watch him or be in the same room. Even I don't know if he's afraid someone's going to make fun of him, or maybe, I don't think it's that. I think he's just afraid that person might distract his stimming. I don't know what you think, Doug, but I think it would throw off his rhythm. And what's interesting that we've noticed over time, the way that he pushes off, with the ball of his foot, his right calf is significantly larger than his left calf because of, in my opinion, his stemming and how he pushes off on his feet. There's an art form to it. And he has terrible calluses. He doesn't do it with shoes on.
Yeah, he
Typically. Now
won't.
he did it that time, but most of the time it's at home, shoes are off, socks are off, and if there's a rug on the ground, he moves it completely out of the way.
So that's just an example. And like I say,
Yes.
what we've had to learn to do is give space for it.
Yeah.
So if we're going to go somewhere, we're going to get involved with a bunch of people, we're going to have a major event,
Yeah.
like we know that he's going to need some time to decompress when he gets home. He can have the time of his life. It could be
Yes.
fun as all get out with people he wants to be around,
Yes.
doing stuff he wants to do. But we know, like, okay, when we get home, there's going to be probably like church on Wednesday nights. He'll hang out at church.
That's
He'll
hard
have
for
a
him.
great time at church,
Yeah.
and it'll take him 2 to 3 hours to go to sleep that night.
Yeah.
And sometimes that
It's
has
hard.
cascading effects for him for the rest of
And the rest of us, to be
we
honest.
can't go to sleep because he's up and closing doors and slamming doors and doing
Right.
this and making noise.
Right.
But he doesn't, because he doesn't get good rest. Then the next day,
Correct.
he doesn't connect that, because I stay up late one night, the next night's going to have issues and problems. We've had to learn to limit saying, hey, we probably don't need to go here. As much as this is a good thing and a fun thing,
There are
it might not be worth
repercussions.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
going
it's
to create
not,
more
yeah,
problems than it's going to solve.
right. For him and honestly for us, a lot of the time, the dog is hanging out. She's very excited because she sees me moving my hands. So a couple other things, when Doug was talking about providing the space and the time for it, this can be very challenging if you do have someone in your family that needs some type of stemming or space for it, because when we've gone out of town, or maybe we're going to a wedding, or we're going to something like that, and we're staying in a hotel, or we're staying with someone in a place that he's not used to, like hotel room doesn't really have a lot of space, or at least the hotel rooms we've stayed in don't have a lot of space for that. And then all four of us are in
I
each
found an
other's
empty
space.
ballroom one time at a hotel we were at. Like I went all the way to the top floor and it had like a little lookout. And I'm
Yeah.
like, this is like the perfect place. So we
Yeah.
got back from where we were at. And I'm like, Tyler, let's go. We're going to go somewhere.
Yeah. It's
And we
just,
went up there and sat in the corner. It was dark. He spun for, 20 minutes. And all right, I'm ready to go to sleep now. It
right.
was, so it's just learning how to fit that into the rhythm.
That's my car alarm going off. There we go. All right.
To start over. So we just had a brief break where a car alarm was going off because Tyler has been having a little bit of difficulty with sitting out in the garage and apparently set off the car alarm at 8 o'clock at night. So fun times.
We did not tell him to go sit in the garage, but he didn't want to hear us talking. So anyhow, so
Talking
neighbor,
noises.
yes, yeah, talking noises. So
Very
neighbors,
appropriate.
if you just heard my car alarm going off at 8:30 at night on a Saturday, my apologies.
And as an example, he came in from that because that was a stressful type situation and has come into his room and turned on music so that he can now kind of decompress from
Yes.
the overstimulation of the car alarm going off.
Yes. So if you hear music in the background, it's now blaring from his TV in his room back there. So another thing too is when we were living in North Florida years ago and the boys were younger, if there was a family party, a birthday party of people that we knew, or there was a holiday party, typically all the families would go. And so one thing we started noticing was probably what Doug, when Tyler was maybe in intermediate elementary school, like maybe, I don't know, third, fourth grade, maybe second grade, we would be at a party and we'd be there and there was food and there were bounce houses or there were slides or there were bonfires or, dogs, people, just a lot of fun, right? Cake, cookies. Tyler would get to the point where he would come to us and say, I'm ready to leave. Now, mind you, there were many times, most of the time, we weren't ready to go because we might have finally found somebody to talk to or we were eating. And for the first little bit, Doug, do you remember what happened when we didn't listen to that?
Yeah, we would say, all right, okay, bud, thanks. We're not ready to go. Let's keep going. And
Yeah.
then, and then he'd come back like 2 minutes. I'm ready to go. And
Yeah.
then it's like, I'm ready to go. And then shortly after that, it was full blown meltdown.
It was. And then I'm doing the walk of shame, going to the car, carrying the child who is screaming, where the younger one's not wanting to go. And then we're like, bye, guys. So sorry. See you next time. And so we didn't really recognize the signs of that he was ready and he was overstimulated and his brain had taken all
And
that
he
it
can't
could.
communicate that. He
No.
can't say like, hey, this is really stimulating for
This
me
is
right
very
now. There's a
stressful.
lot of smells and sights and sounds and people. And
Right.
I took all I had to get this far. And I'd like to
Correct.
leave before I have a freak out.
Correct.
I mean, if he could have said that, that would have saved us a lot of time. But that's just, the sensory, the language processing element of that just wasn't there for him.
Right. And then over time, we started realizing he was would say that at parties. And then after we had done the walk of shame a few times, not understanding that how much time we might have had to get him out of there without a meltdown, we started to realize that if he says he was ready to go, then we would say, okay, bud, we're going to leave in so many minutes. And typically we had about what, Doug, about a 20 to 30-minute window
I go
sometimes.
like 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay. Well, maybe I told myself we had 20. And then we started to figure out, okay, or have we not eaten? Do we need to, even if we miss the presents, even if we miss the candles or the other fun activities. And then sometimes eventually we started going in two cars sometimes. And if we had to do that because, it's not
Yeah,
ideal,
he might just need to go,
he
and
might
when the
need to
rest of
go.
us
And one
aren't
of us
ready
just
to
had
go.
to bite the bullet and do it.
And while we're talking about presents, especially even at his own parties or Christmases or birthday parties, he typically only really wants one thing for whatever, if it's Christmas and he has a certain toy that he wants it. Sometimes it's a $3 toy that he found on a thrift store, and that's
Right.
all he wants. He doesn't want like the $400 gaming system,
Right.
sometimes he does, but most of the time it's just
Very small.
less than $10 kind of thing that he wants,
Right.
a
And
stuffed toy or whatever.
we're going to talk about the holidays in an upcoming episode because that's a really good topic. But
But to give you an example of what we're talking about, that he'll get the toy that he wants, and there's like 15, 20, 500 other toys that he has that people want him to open, and
presents,
he's
yeah.
like, okay, I'm good. That's all I wanted. And he just takes this toy and goes and plays in the corner, and everybody's like, what's gonna happen? And it finally got to the point where we're just like, you know what? We're just gonna let him open his presents like one a day,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry if you're
Like
offended
staggered Christmas for
because,
birthday.
you didn't see him, the joy of his face when he opened your gift. We'll send you a picture
Yeah.
because it's just not worth it right now to
Yeah.
force him to open up all these toys when he really just wants to go play with this one toy that he just got.
Right.
And, because he can't handle all of that. So we've
Right.
had to learn how to
Right.
adjust how we do parties, where we do parties,
How long we stay
whether we're
somewhere.
attending a party as a guest or whether we are the guest of honor. He is the guest of honor at the party.
Correct. Well, and even like when he was younger, I remember there were a couple weekends when the boys were, like I said, younger. And I remember there was one particular weekend that we were invited to 3 parties on a Saturday. And in the early days of parenting, I was like, we're going to hit all of them because, I like parties. Let's go. And I'm going to tell you, that was not good at all. So, you live and you learn, you figure out the threshold of your child, and then you've got to get that downtime. I also know that sometimes, I remember years ago, he had a Kindle, and all he had on there were like an Angry Birds game.
No joke. That Kindle, we added like some sort of like specialized kid case to it. That thing was freaking amazing.
It was.
And I'm not like sponsored by Kindle or
No.
anything. I wish I would. If
I
you
mean,
want to
but if you
sponsor
wanna
me, like we'll
sponsor
take the
us.
money. But I mean, that thing dropped from like the stairs on like the daily, like on the regular.
It lasted for like 7
I think it
years.
finally like met its
Oh.
death in the bathtub.
Yes.
Like he
When he was in 5th grade.
and it might still work after that. I might have been able to dry it out and still get it to work. But that Joker, like it was like the kids' version Kindle, and it impressive is all I got to say.
I will tell you, I don't know how, but you're right. It was when he was in 5th grade when we lived in North Carolina for 11 months. And I don't remember why it went in the bathtub. I
I
think he
think one
was
day I took the case off to clean it, and there was like a good like 1/8 inch of like
crumbs.
grime
It was
all over the
gross.
thing. That the case, but somehow it worked. I don't know how it did.
Yeah. I think he was taking it in the bathtub maybe to play a game, and then it dropped, and then that was
We
the end
also
of it.
had a series of time in the bathtub where we watched the movie Flushed Away. My parents showed it to him,
Oh, I
and then
forgot.
he would line up all of his toys on the edge of the toilet and then just push them in and go them down the toilet. That would then get stuck in the trap, which would then require me to take the toilet off and clean out the trap. The good Lord had tried. I must have prayed for patience somewhere along the way because, yeah.
I forgot about that movie, and I'm going to tell you right now. I wish you hadn't brought that up because that was a really dark time. Because
Ooh, yeah.
the one thing, like Doug, you are phenomenal at home repairs and building things. You like to do that to de-stress, but the one thing that Doug Hodges loathes more than anything is, what is it?
Plumbing.
Plumbing.
Anything plumbing.
And honestly,
Clogged toilets more than anything because it's completely preventable. And as my grandmother might say, would tell me, I might have put something in my mouth that I wouldn't have put in my hand when I went through that whole process. But nonetheless, we'll just let you
Yeah,
figure that out.
so we digressed a little bit, but yes, there was a period of time where everything was being flushed down the toilet. And I remember when we lived in Turning Leaf, those of you who are our
Momo got
neighbors,
flushed down the toilet.
you remember it was Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. He had all the Mickey,
They
Donald,
all
and
got
Donald
flushed
was down the
away
toilet, flushed away. And I remember you had to take the toilet off
and
the
carry it
floor,
downstairs,
carry it down the stairs, clean it, and
pressure wash it.
God bless our one friend Don Tanner. He came by and he came by many times when the Hodges were struggling, and I just remember he brought some magical liquid that one time when we were having other plumbing
Yeah,
issues.
some sort of acid.
I don't know. All right.
Whoever bought my house and doesn't have
So the
pipes
whole
now,
point of the Kindle
that's why.
story. Okay, we're not going to talk about it anymore. We blocked it. Let's not go back there. We're not going to open Pandora's box. Anyhow, so the whole point about the Kindle, that's why I originally brought it up, was when he was younger and he was playing his game, and I would say, "Okay, Kindle time's over." It was a full-on meltdown, kicking, screaming, crying because I took the Kindle, even though he'd had it for a bit and was just playing a game. And that was happening time and time again. Now, Doug, you can talk about electronics in just a second, but I will tell you what I ended up doing way back when is I just set a timer. And I would say, okay, Tyler, in 10 minutes, I'm going to take the Kindle. And so I would either set the timer on the oven in our house up in North Florida or on my phone. And then when 5 minutes went by, okay, it's a 5 minute countdown. Okay, buddy, because I had to prepare him for it. And by doing that, then he was able to surrender that. And Doug, you want to talk a little bit about electronics for
Yeah,
a minute?
well, there's parts of that that's autism, but there's also parts of that that's ADHD, which he has the unholy
Both.
mixture of both.
Yeah.
But y- when you're in an electronic environment with ADHD, it's kind of like everything finally runs at the level that you need it to run at.
Mhm.
It's kind of like trying to steer a jet ski that you don't have, the throttle pushed on, like it doesn't go anywhere. But you finally get things going, man, you can turn, you can go, you can do, your brain's working, everything in your brain is firing, and it's all
Mhm.
going together, and it's just, you've hit your sweet spot. And so when somebody takes that away from you, especially without warning, it's like trying to come down off a high. Like
Yeah,
it's just,
it really is.
you can't do it. So being able to learn, and especially when at that point you don't have a way in which to soothe yourself all that terribly well because of the autism, whew, it's like gas to a match. The two are just going to explode.
Right.
So being able to find some ways in which to be able to set up in advance what are your time limits on this,
Yes.
to be able to communicate that there are time limits of things. Those are all stuff that's helpful. Now, are electronics bad and horrible? No, but you got to know your own person and what their strengths and weaknesses and limitations are.
Right.
Right now, we're kind of in a phone hiatus, and we have been for a couple of weeks.
It's been rough, y'all.
It's a
It's been rough.
detox. It's kind of like it's literally
Legit.
like taking an addictive substance. Letting him have a little bit of a sip of it, and all of a sudden he wants to drink the whole bottle.
Yes.
And when you take the bottle away from him, whew,
Yeah.
it really is that addictive. And electronics can be very addicting.
Mhm.
Right now between the two of us, there's 3 computers and 2 phones that are open on this table right now.
Right.
And so they're a part of our lives, but it can take over pretty quickly and easily.
Right. And so one suggestion I have, and just based on my career and what I do, I was actually talking to someone the other day about a timer like being used in a classroom. And I will tell you, this is really good if you are a teacher. This is really good if you are a parent, if you have a student or a child who does struggle with transitions or pivoting from one thing to the next, or something like technology, or something just they really love to do and it's time to go on to something else. Not just setting a timer, but having a visual timer. Because, as an adult, I can, see my watch, we're good, but to show a student or show your child where the timer is and they can see the countdown, that's better because then they can follow along. And honestly, they can take ownership on it. Okay, I got 1 more minute. I'm going to finish this up. And one thing I've noticed, even in the past with Tyler, when he would see that timer, a lot of times he would surrender the Kindle before his time was up, but it was also on his terms.
Okay, so we're gonna stop here for today. We'll pick it up in our next episode from there. But thanks for listening, for watching, and send us some updates as to what some things you want to hear about, some things you don't
Yes.
want to hear about,
Yes.
and enjoy the rest of your week.
Right. And like we said earlier in this episode, stay tuned because we will post the video of Tyler doing some dancing at Disney Springs. We hope you have a great week.